We are good to go.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Before we begin, I'd like to seek a motion for approval of the minutes from our last meeting in November. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Tonight, we have some wonderful members of our community here to tell you about their work to make our school the best it can be, despite all the obstacles we still face in our world. They're administrators, teachers, and dedicated parent volunteers. But first, and speaking of dedication, the Chief of the Bronxville Police, Christopher Satrielli, is joining us. Earlier this month, many of us heard about a disturbing incident in our town involving one of our students. The chief is here to share what he can and answer your questions. If you put them in the chat while he talks, I'll make sure to pass them on to him. Chief, can I pass the meeting over to you?
Sure, I'm ready.
Okay, it's all yours.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. By way of intro, I'm the police chief in the village of Bronxville. I've been here 34 years. I started my career at 19 years old. You could do the math. I'm early 50s. Graduated the police academy at 20 and started in Bronxville, and was fortunate enough that timing was perfect with vacancies and promotions. Scored well on promotional exams, and I've been your police chief for 14 years. Visited last week via Zoom with the middle school council. Had a good meeting. Discuss some of what we do to promote and enhance safety within the school building and in proximity to the building. And this invitation and my presentation, if you want to call it that, my discussion tonight was prompted by an incident that occurred in the village. And I will describe a little bit about our investigation, a little bit about our notification, and certainly take any questions that you may have. I give that intro for a reason, and I offered somewhat of an apology to the middle school PTA council, because I sometimes forget that there are new people that move into the village and don't know me and don't know my department and don't have a level of trust that they may have to those people, versus those people that have been here for 30 years and know that, hey, if something were going on, we would know about it. Chief would let us know. And for that, I'm a bit regretful that I forget that there are new families that don't know me, don't know the police department, hear some bad stories, are involved in some text chains or social media texts, and don't understand that if there was something really bad, you would know. So let's start with the relationship that I have. We've always had a extremely strong and trusting relationship with the administration of the school. I am in nearly constant contact with Roy Montesano, Rachel Kelly, Mike Lee, Marcellus Lassane, and our new principal, who unfortunately, because of COVID, I have not had an opportunity to meet in person, but Joe and I have texted and spoke on the phone, and you have to trust in that relationship. There's a sharing of information constantly. Roy probably, and Rachel, I know, some weekends, some nights, some early mornings, dread those phone calls, but that level of communication is there, and it's strong on both sides. And what happened on last Sunday, we had an 11-year-old girl from the village who went to Starbucks and wasn't aware the Starbucks was closed. So she was stranded a bit in front of Starbucks. It was cold out, a bit of drizzle. She had a jacket on, and she was visibly cold. You can tell that it was not a nice day to be walking around or standing around. A white van pulled up, parked in the no parking zone in front of Starbucks, and the driver put the passenger window down in the van and asked the girl for directions to Delray. That's what she heard. Others have heard Delray, but I believe it was Delray. There was a car parked in the driveway to Acme. It's the loading zone to Acme, and that car was facing outward. You'll often see a police car parked there watching the stop sign there at Haagen-Dazs. There was a bystander parked there, a woman from Tuckahoe. She saw the van pull up. She saw the encounter. The girl acted just like we would expect, just like we train. She did not get close to the van in any way. She did not communicate with the gentleman in any way, but it was enough of a concern for the bystander that she put her window down and listened. After asking for directions, the driver asked the girl, mentioned to the girl, "You look chilly. Would you like a ride home?" At that point, the bystander got out of her car, called 911, and went up to the girl and removed her from the situation. The girl was about 8 to 10 feet from the van, still on the sidewalk. The driver made no effort to get out of the van, made no effort to open the door. The bystander yelled at the man that she was calling the police. The man closed the passenger window, opened the driver's side window, and spoke to a gentleman who was walking in the area of Haagen-Dazs and Echo Cleaners. We do not know what that conversation was about. We did not identify that second person. We responded within a minute, less than a minute. The driver was gone. We immediately went to our camera system, and the camera across from Haagen-Dazs recorded the van license plate. So we partner with every police agency in Westchester County, as well as the state police and New York City police, on a hotline. We call it the Bat phone. It's a phone that doesn't need any dialing, doesn't even have a dial on it. Very old fashioned, but very reliable. Pick it up, and there's a speaker in every police department that you can broadcast to. We broadcast that license plate immediately to every police department in Westchester County. We sent that license plate to the real-time crime center at the Westchester County Department of Public Safety. That's the county police headquarters. They have a real-time crime center that's manned 24 hours a day. We have a detective that's there every Friday on a 4 to 12 shift. It's a partnership with all police departments in the county. That real-time crime center, the RTC, has access to all the license plate readers that are mobile, meaning in police cars, and also stationary, hanging on telephone poles and traffic lights. That license plate was put into their system, and it hit immediately in Mount Vernon. We notified Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon could not locate the car. It hit again within 3 to 4 minutes of the first hit in New Rochelle twice. New Rochelle police was able to locate the van and pull the driver over. We immediately sent officers to New Rochelle, detained the driver, brought him to New Rochelle, brought him to Bronxville, impounded the van, and started our investigation. Thanks to our cameras, the evidence was clear. There was a clear discussion between the driver and the girl. The discussion was, it was clear that the discussion disturbed the bystander enough that she intervened. The driver refused to cooperate with our investigation. He consented to a search of his van, not to his cell phone, and he refused to be interviewed, requested an attorney. So we filed a single charge of unlawfully dealing with a minor. It's a misdemeanor charge, punishable by up to 1 year in jail. And he was arraigned in our court and released on his own recognizances. In speaking with Jennifer Heathwood about planning these discussions, one of the questions that she received often from the middle school PTA council members was, why was he ROR'd? We have no control over bail, neither does our court. Due to bail reform that was enacted in 2019, our judges have no discretion. The gentleman must be released on his own recognizance when he's charged with a misdemeanor. So he was released. Our investigation continues. We're applying for search warrants for his phone. And we hope to gather some information on the phone. Subsequent to the arrest, we put a bulletin out through that same RTC about the arrest. And that bulletin is to alert other police agencies that we had this incident. And we ask them to share any incidents they have with us. And I tell you that because some of what I've heard and some of the questions we've received since was, Chief, why didn't we know about this? We should have known immediately. And to that, I will say, again, I'll go back to the trust issue, and I should have realized that maybe there were some new families that don't have that level of trust that others do. But trust me now that at no time, because of the perceived delay, was public safety impacted in a negative way in the village. And I say that with 100% confidence because what was asked of us is we should have known the car. We should have been looking out for the car. How do we impounded the van, and we had the van up until yesterday, and we returned the van to U-Haul. We did not release a picture of the individual, of the subject, because two things it would compromise. And again, safety is paramount here. So I have to make that judgment decision on releasing the photo. If releasing the photo benefits the village, I will release it. But if I don't have to release it and not compromise our investigation or somebody else's, I won't. And that's where I fell. If we had another police agency contact us and say we had the same incident, they would have to prepare what we call a 6-pack. It's a photo array of 6 photos with our subject. And if I put that picture out, that identification procedure that another police department would have to undertake would be considered suggestive. Defense attorney in the other case would say, of course you identified my subject. Bronxville put the picture out. If we identified the gentleman across the street, who would be a good witness for us, if we identified him through our license plate program, we would have to do a 6-pack with him and ask him to identify the individual. So we waited the day or two for those notifications to come in. Fortunately, there were none. There's not another police department in the county or state that had a similar incident with this individual or anybody for that matter in the van. We're subpoenaing the rental agreement to see how long he's had the van as well. And we are unable to locate the witness. So on Tuesday evening, I believe, when we heard, the village heard that text messages were going around and there was great concern about what happened, that's when I released the alert. So I hope you can appreciate everything that goes into that decision. And I can tell you that the two most valuable groups in our community, and I've said this for 14 years as chief and 34 as a police officer, are our senior citizens and our children. And I would never do anything to make either one of those groups vulnerable to anyone who might be preying on them or trying to commit a crime against them. If I felt that way, you would have heard from me. You've heard from me through COVID. You've heard from me on car thefts. If you haven't heard from me, then you don't have our alert system. And it's a good time to make you aware that we have an emergency alert system. Go to my website. It's called Swift Reach, and you'll hear from me when there are issues going on in the village that impact public safety. And this one, we were extremely confident that We did not have to release any information immediately. I was in immediate contact with Roy. I was in immediate contact with Rachel. And what we agreed to do is accelerate our stranger awareness program. And I'm happy to report that that happened this morning. And it will continue tomorrow in the elementary school. Sergeant Carroll will be there again tomorrow. And I offered to Jennifer to come and speak to any meeting that you may have been setting up. And I didn't realize it was timely that you had 3 Zooms coming up for elementary, middle, and high school. So a complex investigation, no question about it. A difficult investigation. We're glad it was resolved within 2 hours of the incident due to cameras, technology, and our partners in Mount Vernon and New Rochelle. Within 2 hours, he was arrested and charged. At this point, I don't have an answer for the question of motive. And I've struggled with that question since Sunday. I don't know what he was going to do. There was nothing in the van to dispel any rumors that might be out there. There was nothing in the van that would lead us to believe that he was going to do anything. There was information early on about a game board or a game system that once we got consent and searched the van, there was nothing in the van that would lead us to believe that he was going to do anything to anybody. He has a criminal history. He has no criminal history of pedophilia. He has no criminal history of crimes against children. He has no criminal history of crimes against persons. He has grand larceny and criminal possession of forged instrument history. I believe, in looking at his criminal history, that at one time, or maybe still, he's a bookie. He runs numbers, he does gambling, deals in forged instruments, which is common for illegal gambling. What he was doing here, I don't know. Where Delray is, I don't know. He did not cooperate in our interview. He's an 85-year-old man. Grew up at a very different time than we're living in now. Is it possible that he truly saw a young girl who was cold in the rain and alone and was going to give her a ride home? Quite possible. We had the same thing happen at Haagen-Dazs about 6 years ago. 16-year-old boy from Mount Vernon standing in the rain. Old man drives by. You need a ride home. He gives him a ride home. The parents call us. We identify him through license plate. We talk to him. He cooperated. He was a 70-year-old man who said, I saw the boy standing there, reminding me of my grandson. I couldn't let him stay in the rain. I drove him home. It's quite possible that that was the motive here. We don't know. We may never know. I want to stress that safety of our children and seniors is paramount. I was the first ever state certified juvenile officer for the Bronxville Police Department. I took over as chief. We now have 11 youth officers. We have 2 school resource officers. We have 4 community resource officers who are going to partner with the school resource officers and be a presence within the building. Once COVID clears, this administration, when I say that, I mean Roy and Rachel and Marcellus and the school board, prior to COVID, gave us an office in the building. We had a sandwich board when you walked in the building and it said, youth officer on duty. We will return to that. We want to foster a positive relationship between our children, our young adults, and the police department. It's critical for them to know us, for them to trust us, for them to like us. We will continue that when COVID ends. This administration and previous administrations were supportive of cameras and door locks. There was a lot of resistance in the community to locking that campus down. I think the events of the last 10 years or so prove that those security measures were important. We drill lockdowns, we drill lockouts, and this district is more prepared. I could tell you it's more prepared than my home district here in Westchester for an incident. And the level of communication is fantastic. And the trust that we have between the two sides of the street is strong. So I'm always available for questions. I fielded many that Sunday and Monday night, cell phone, email, office, whatever it is. If, as we say, as Sergeant Carroll will say, to your children, and as I said through the years to your children, if something doesn't seem right, the chances are your instincts are right. Remove yourself from it. This girl did a great job. She didn't go closer to the van. She didn't engage in conversation, and the bystander did a great job of intervening. So I will just close in saying that I will be more aware of the fact that, especially elementary, a lot of you are new families to the building, new families to the school. And I understand that I have to prove that trust, and I have to sell once again the BPD to new people in the community that are moving in. We're a transparent police department. Go to my website. We post statistics. We post monthly reports. There's nothing we hide. Never in my tenure was there ever an opportunity or ever desire to hide information from the public. That's why we do the swift reach so often. Some people say too often. I share too much. That's my policy. So any questions? I hope I hit everything. I never plan on talking that much, but this is what happens all the time.
Chief, there's not a question quite yet, but I'm curious. We're so grateful that your department is educating our children. You're a dad. I'm curious what you said to your own children when you were talking to them about this kind of thing. Were there 3 things that you said, you guys, if you don't forget anything else, these are the things?
I never liked any of them being alone. And I want to be careful because I don't want to put blame on the girl in this situation or the parents or anyone. But I never liked my children at that age being alone. Travel in groups. A group could be 2. If the motive was to cause harm, it's less likely that an individual will choose somebody within a group of 2, 3, or 4. So I always made sure, you going out? Yes. Who you going with? Okay, good. You're okay. Never approach a car, a van. That's the other thing is unfortunately it was a van, a white van. And those CSI and Law and Order, it's always a white van. Pull up, throw them in the van and go. And it was a rent-a-van. We don't know why he had a rent-a-van. My guess from my training and experience is that there is a gambling component to his business, and the van is not traceable. That's the criminal element. Loves to use rent-a-cars. And in this age, the nice thing is I gave them a cell phone a lot earlier than I wanted to. 5th grade, I believe, I gave in. And my little guy, my other guys were angry because they got it in 7th, but in 5th grade, I said, you know what? It's a valuable tool for tracking, number one, and for them reaching out. So traveling groups, don't approach anybody. If something doesn't feel right, chances are it is. Get on your cell phone right away and go to an area that you trust. Go to a business. Walk into Park Place Bagels, walk into Pete's, walk into Haagen-Dazs. Could you call the police, please? I don't feel right. And those are that hasn't changed. Stranger awareness, can't call them stranger danger anymore. Stranger awareness, whatever you call it, really hasn't changed. It's just that sometimes we forget to teach it and stress it and repeat it. And they're children. They find themselves in situations where they forget what was told to them. So that's my best advice. And it's not earth-shattering. It's not anything new. It's what we've been teaching for a very long time. And we're fortunate that we live in a very safe community and have a police department that's responsive and there 1 square mile. We could be anywhere within a minute or two. And our cameras really have proven to deter a lot of crime.
Chief, hi,
Hi,
it's Joyce Vastola. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all of your efforts on behalf of our children in the community. Some of you may not know that prior to COVID, we had a program where we expressed our gratitude to our police officers, and we had the third graders bake cookies for them, and Chief brought his staff, and they asked all kinds of questions, and we hope to continue that in the future. Your officers who are stationed outside the school are just a delight with the children. And I went to the kindergarten presentation this morning by Sergeant Carroll. I know Rachel was there for a while, and certainly Joe and Rakia, and he was spectacular. And I don't say that lightly. How do you talk about these topics with kindergartners? It was developmentally appropriate. He had the kids totally engaged. They couldn't stop raising their hands. I mean, he would still be there. But I was really impressed with his personality, his ability to engage little ones and impart a serious message, but at the same time, not frighten them. That's challenging. So I just want to thank you and thank him, because it was really very impressive. Thank you.
I appreciate the feedback. I will share it with Sergeant Carroll. It is a very difficult topic and it's difficult to present. He does a fantastic job. He's a very valuable member of our team. And we will, I say this so often, once COVID's over, we could do this. Once COVID's over, we could do that.
Right.
The school is on the top of that list. Once COVID is over, there are a lot of programs that we used to do. We were in David Russert's health class for drug and alcohol. We're in college, we're in high school for bullying and the transition to college. Elementary is the stranger awareness and bicycle safety. There are a lot of programs that we're excited to get our new youth officers involved in, and our SROs and CROs. So we look forward to strengthening the relationship that we have with the school. Not that it needs to be strengthened, but we're always looking to improve. I'm never satisfied with our performance.
Thank you so much, Chief. It's in the chat again and again if you care to take a look, but we're all so grateful for your transparency and your thoughtfulness and all that you do for our community. Thank you.
Well, my pleasure. Have a great night. I'm glad to be a partner in this effort. And again, I offer myself day, night, weekend, holiday. If there's ever anything that comes up, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I'm straight shooter. I will tell you exactly what I can and can't tell you and why. And I will always err on the side of caution for and safety, the safety of our children and seniors. Two of the most vulnerable groups of population within the village. And I want to make sure we protect them in every way we can.
Thank you so much. We're so lucky to have you.
Good night, all.
Our superintendent, Dr. Roy Montesano, is also here tonight to talk about good old COVID and other topics. Please continue to put any questions in the chat. Dr. Montesano, can I please pass the meeting on to you?
Great. Thank you, Alana. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see so many people on tonight. I see over 100 people. I'll try to be relatively brief and cover the latest and greatest events going on with our COVID stuff. I know there's been a lot of question marks lately, a lot of confusion. I apologize for that, but trust me, it's not because we aren't on top of these things. We're just getting emails every day, in the evenings, in the mornings, differing opinions and everything else. So I'll give you the latest as we know it now and what we're doing. But before I continue, Chief is still on. I just want to echo just one thing he said, and that is we have such a great relationship with our police department. We're very, very fortunate. They're catty corner to our school. I know I can probably yell out my window and say, Chief, come on over, and he'll be there in a heartbeat. But we are really, really, truly blessed to have such a terrific force led by Chris Satriali, and the relationship we have is just terrific for all of us, and it keeps us all safe and confident in what they can do. So having said that, I'll continue with the other topic, which is COVID. So just very quickly on the testing front and our infection rates and things like that. We've been testing now over 300 people every week through our testing program. If you haven't provided consent, please consider to do so. We'll still accept that. And our infection rates are going down, similar to what you're seeing all around in Westchester and across the state. We had a high of about an 8% positive rate right at the beginning of January, right after the holiday break. And since that time, it went down to 4%. And then this week, I believe it was around 2%. So it's really reduced quite a bit. In the meeting I had on Monday with the county executive and the other Westchester superintendents, the county executive said that as of that past Saturday, there were 15,000 active cases in Westchester. 10 days prior to that, there were 36,000 active cases in Westchester. So even, within our own county, the rates are going down significantly. Although I just cautioned that a little bit because I did have a conversation with our mayor, and she did let me know that the hospitalization rates have increased actually in our area. And they've seen an uptick, slight uptick in the number of people who've been hospitalized. So I just balance that off to say it is still real, still something we have to deal with, and something we have to be cautious with as we move forward. Now, as many of you saw the other day, there was a judge from Nassau County who ruled that the governor and the Department of Health's mandate about mask mandate was deemed to be illegal, if you will. And we received an email that evening about 7:15 indicating that ruling. Approximately 45 minutes later, we received an email from the New York State Ed Department who said that there was an appeal in place and schools are required to follow the mask mandate. Department of Health sent something similar. The next morning, when I came in, I did check with our legal counsel about what was going on, because I know a number of districts had different opinions on the mandate itself and the ruling itself. So I asked our attorney. They were of the opinion at that in the morning that we should still follow the mask mandate. There were other districts whose attorneys, now we use different attorneys, felt that the appeal wasn't automatic. And so indeed it did lift the mask mandate. So there were several in the area that I'm sure you're aware of, New Rochelle and Harrison and Rye and a few others that made masks optional for that day because their attorneys gave them that advice. And I saw that. I received a number of emails with parents who said, how come we're not optional? And the reason was because at that point in time, based on our legal counsel, they said the mask mandate was in place. Later on that during the day, we were receiving emails from the Department of Health and SED saying that they were waiting for the ruling on the appeal, but schools should follow the mask mandate, which is a very different position. So they walked back on that. So later that day, we did know that there wasn't oral arguments about the appeal made by the state, and the judge put an interim stay in place. So the mask mandates were again implemented, and that's where we currently are. So yes, there were several districts that had one day of a mask optional, and now we're back into a mask mandate, which is required by law for us. So there is an interim stay of the mask mandate. Now, it's my understanding as of this afternoon, I got an email that the opposing side has until tomorrow afternoon to file briefs. There's going to not be any oral argument on Friday. They just have the opportunity to file documents in opposition of the stay. But we were told definitively that the stay is in place until there's a ruling on the permanent status of the stay, if that makes sense. So until we hear differently, the masks are in place, and I can't change that. As an aside, you should know that the mandate is set to expire. This was set a while ago on February 21st. Some people are confused with that date as well, because it also says that as of February 1st, the public mask mandate expires. So meaning, I know it doesn't make any sense, and I can't do anything with that, but the public mask mandate right now is set to expire February 1st. I don't know if it'll be extended. We'll see. That means indoor places do not have to require the masks, but in schools, we still do until we hear differently, either through the ruling on the appeal and the stay, or until the mask mandate expires. So that's currently where we are. Now, several people have also asked me, okay, let's assume for a second the stay is lifted or the mask mandate goes away. What is the position of the school? At that point, we will make masks optional. We'll follow the rulings of the state. So until that time, we have to have a mask mandate. If it's lifted, we'll make the adjustment accordingly. So if I missed one day or a half a day where kids couldn't have a mask on, you know what, I'll take that hit because we were doing what we felt was best at the time based on the advice given at the time. But once that changes, we're going to make masks optional as well. Several people said, why aren't we requiring KN95 masks for kids? Because the new evidence has suggested that the cloth masks are not as effective. KN95 mask, or the more effective mask. Believe me, we have a challenging enough time for kids to have masks in school, the medical mask or the cloth mask, to try to track that down and say, now you are required to have a KN95 mask. It would be an overwhelming task for us to do as a school. But if parents are concerned about that, I would strongly recommend you go out and get a KN95 mask for your child. Doesn't mean they can't wear them. We're not preventing them from wearing them, but we can't mandate that. We're not going to mandate that because that's not a requirement that we have. So we're going to follow the regulations and requirements that we have regarding mask mandates. So that's the latest. I know it's confusing, but honestly, it's not because we're trying to be confusing, but that's the information that comes out almost hourly for us these days. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, Alana. I know you have a healthy agenda here. If there's anything else you want me to cover, I'll be happy to, but that's the latest.
Thanks, Roy. There's a question in the chat. Can we hear the results? Can we hear the results of the school vaccination survey?
Sure. Thank you for bringing that up, actually. So we had approximately 835 people respond to the survey. Out of the 835 people that responded, 822, I believe, were vaccinated. Children were vaccinated. So for us, we can make the assumption that we know we already have more than half of our students vaccinated. I don't know what the other 700 people who didn't respond to the survey, but I have to assume that some of them are vaccinated as well. So we're probably, that's a guess. It's more than half, probably closer to 67% of our children are vaccinated. And we do have over 90% of our staff vaccinated.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
What I'm hearing is 2 years in, these issues remain just so complicated. And I appreciate you clarifying them and being here. And people are saying thank you in the chat as well. Thank you.
Sure. I saw another question pop up. Masking no longer
thanks.
something that will be dictated by CDC or departments of health. We get our direction not from the CDC. It's done in combination. Either right now it's done by the governor, the mask mandate itself, which is why there was an attempt to overrule that because they said she didn't have the authority to do it, or the State Department of Health. That's where we get our authority from. They don't have to follow the CDC regulations. It's done by the state departments of health. Sometimes we get further regulations from our county Department of Health. So that can occur too, but right now we take our direction from the governor's office and the State Department of Health. So that's where it does come from. And I just want to say that, you know, throughout the last 2 years, I just want to give a plug for our district and our staff and everybody that's been through that, because I think overall we've done a pretty incredible job of keeping our kids in school, keeping our schools open. So I'm hoping that people trust us, continue to trust us to do the right thing when it comes to the pandemic and what we're doing for our kids.
Thank you.
Sure.
Now, the elementary school principal, Mr. Joe Mercora, is here to introduce you to some of our fantastic teachers and also to announce an exciting project that I think you will all be thrilled to hear about.
Thank you so much, Alana. I want to just welcome 3 amazing people that will be presenting on behalf of the elementary school today. We have Dr. Joyce Vistola with us, who will give you a care update as part of our continuing to give you a little flavor of what's happening with instruction. We have Claire Holoku here, who's going to speak about our incredible technology course and the work that's being done K-5. And then from NRUSC, which is a strategic planning organization that will be working with Bronxville Elementary School, Conan Robinson is here. So one day after her wonderful wedding anniversary, I'm going to introduce someone who brings a lot of joy to our school and segue into an update on care from Dr. Joyce Vistola. Joyce? You can unmute yourself, Joyce. There you go.
Thanks, Joe. Hi, everybody. I am so happy to see you on screen. We have a little slideshow prepared for you. So I just want to give you a quick overview of what's been going on with care, and reminding you that we see half the school in 5-week rotations. So wait, well, hold on, Joe, one sec. Let me just set the stage. So we've spent a lot of time talking to your children, and I want to remind you, your children tell us what is on their minds, okay? And that's fantastic. You know, you create at home and we create in school an environment where sharing is really valued. So we've been talking, our theme this month for, you know, our B3 theme has been perseverance. And we've been talking a lot in care about what it is. How do we identify it? We spent quite an amount of time talking about what frustration is, and this is K-5. And how do we power through it? And, you know, certainly since care began and intensively since COVID, we've been talking a lot about very heavy emotions. And right, what skills can we use when we get in quote emotion mind? And I really felt in consultation with Joe and Rakia that it's been time for a shift. And this week and next, we've been talking a lot about joy. What brings them joy? What is joy? What is joy? What's the difference between joy and happiness? For grades 2 to 5, it's been amazing how sophisticated your children are in terms of differentiating. So I wanted to show you a little bit of our work. I emailed these slides to Roy to put a smile on his face, and and certainly to Rachel and Joe and Rakia. We started with identifying a song that might make us feel joyful, and then we drew our joy drawings. And I want to give you a little sample of what your kids did. So take it away, Joe.
All right, Joyce, and here is a group of students, and if you can hear it, hopefully you're going to hear what they're talking about in their care classes with the great Dr. Vistola. So they're talking about joy, and it's really incredible to see this in action with them. Joyce, you want to talk a little bit about this? What children speaking and reflecting that joy, my family makes me feel happy, and what Joyce said is so true. How many times do we speak to the students and they talk to us about their families and how much joy their family brings? Here's a student, drew something, a friend that makes her feel joy in school each and every day.
Could you backtrack there, Joe?
Go ahead.
That's a first grader. How could you not feel joy just looking at this picture? What I love about kids' drawings is it's such a reflection of what's inside. Me, hearts, music, M-U-Z-I-C, rainbows, hearts. This one is pretty complete.
This one went the whole gauntlet. Yes. Everything from grandparents to parents to sports. But I think what you're seeing is the children are very, very comfortable expressing themselves and their emotions. And certainly Joyce does such an incredible job of creating that comfortable space with the teacher in the room with them, and the conversations and the dialogue. I know some of the best parts of my day are walking in when Dr. Vistola is giving a lesson to a class, and just to thank Joyce for that incredible work that she does with them. And the focus is on joy, because kids need to have, this is that era in their lives of wonder where they need joyfulness around them all the time. And that's what we have to continue to strive for with the elementary students. Thanks.
So,
go ahead, please go.
So what we did was then I would ask the students, at the end of the class, well, what do you think you should do with these drawings? And in every class, they said we should take them home, show our parents, hang them up in our rooms. Why? Why would you hang them up in your rooms? Because when I feel sad or mad or frustrated, I could look at my poster and think about all the things in life that bring me joy. And that's what we're going for here. I want to just say it's such a joy to work with your children, and it's an honor and a privilege to work in Bronxville. So thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. And I couldn't agree more.
Questions? Any questions?
Any questions for Dr. Vistola? Seeing some thank yous, Joyce. As we move forward, I just wanted to welcome Claire Holoku. Claire was one of the first people I met in Bronxville when I started over the summer. And she came right away with a lot of ideas that she had for the technology program, and working with children of different grades, even on a different project. It's something I'm gonna let her speak about. We're very lucky to have Claire as one of our faculty representatives here tonight. And I'm gonna turn it over to Claire right now. Claire?
Hi, everybody. I'm Claire Holoku. It's always hard to follow up Joyce, but I will do my best. So I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about what technology has looked like this year. I've taught technology here at Bronxville for the past 2 years, but last year obviously looked quite different. This year has been really exciting because we've been able to do a lot more hands-on activities and partner work and robotics. So we've been doing a lot of fun stuff that you'll get to see in just a moment. So one thing that I want to note is that while this class is called technology, the two things that we really focus on are digital skills and coding. So in reference to digital skills, we focus on preparing students for using the device that they typically use in the classroom. So iPads for K-2, and then the second half of second grade, we transitioned to Chromebooks, and then Chromebooks for 3 to 5. So at the beginning of the school year, I'll start off with some introductory lessons on the iPads and on the Chromebooks. And I just make sure to come back to a lot of those skills, like closing the apps, putting the iPad to sleep, turning it off, all of those things that are really important for keeping our devices working for longer. And so keep coming back to that and make sure to do that throughout the whole year, even though that is more heavily done at the beginning of the year. Also at the beginning of the year, we focus on Google products. So Google, since we are Google School, most of the projects that students do are through those products. So Google Docs, Google Slides, and Google Sites. So throughout the 6 years of elementary, they get an introduction to each of those, and they get used a lot throughout the actual class time that they use. So I find which of those products they're going to need the most for that school year. And then we do an introduction at the beginning of the year that gets them excited about using the product and gets them also more knowledgeable about doing it. So that sometimes looks like them doing a scavenger hunt in a Google slide, or making an all about me Google site, or creating a collage in Google Slides that shows their classmates about things they like to do. So moving into coding, most of the time that I have them, we focus on coding. And within coding, I want to make sure that they get 3 different types of skills. One is hands-on experience that looks like connecting coding to other parts of their day, and also moving around, doing lots of activities that might not necessarily be actual coding, but are learning the computational skills like loops and functions and all of those coding skills, but through other activities, which you'll see in just a minute when we go into each grade. And then once they have a handle on those, we then move to applying those skills to coding. So we have a lot of different exciting programs that they get to use, different apps and different products that they get really excited about. And then most excitingly, they move into robotics. So each grade has a different type of robot that we use, and they apply the skills that they've learned throughout the whole school year into using robotics. Now in the younger grades, all 3 of these types of skills might be used in one day because we transition between activities quite quickly. Whereas once you get to 5th grade, this really is a year-long trajectory where they start with hands-on experiences at the beginning, move to coding, and follow up with robotics. And so now I'll give you some examples of each of these grades. So here's some pictures from kindergarten. So earlier in the school year, you can see on the left side, students built mazes and they created an algorithm to guide their partner to the end. We just did a follow-up activity on this today, actually, and they have gotten so much better at it. It's really impressive. And they really work so well together and are excited to make those mazes and have their partner be the robot to solve it. And then on the right side, you can see another hands-on activity we do. This one is the students are debugging the directions for an origami, and then they are creating the origami. So they're using Seesaw, which is a product that K-2 uses. So they're getting that review of how to use Seesaw. And they're also finding the right sequence of the order. So practicing fixing things in a wrong order, and then getting hands-on activity of actually following the sequence and making the origami. For 1st grade, we have some other hands-on activities that the students did. They learned about loops by playing a dancing game. They pulled 1 loop card and 1 sequence card and put them together to make an algorithm. And then they did the dance loops as a group. So here they have the dance moves. They know they had to do it 4 times. And then all together, they tried to match their dance moves. So that's on the top pictures. And then at the bottom pictures, this was last week, we had one station where students were working on their iPads on an app. When it was their turn, they would come up and do marble runs. So they're following the directions. One person's looking at the card, they're giving directions to their partner about which pieces to pick up and what sequence to follow. And their partner has to carefully follow that sequence so that they can guide the marble through the maze. And then on the left side, that is a robot that they're using. It's called the mouse robot. And they also have cards where they are building a maze, and then they're guiding their robot through that maze as well. And as you might have noticed, even so far, there's so much of this that is partner work, going through COVID and not being able to work so much with partner work and collaboration. It has been wonderful to be able to incorporate that so much into technology class. If you can see in my classroom, there are no tables. They actually sit on the floor because it's much easier to be able to play with the robots and share ideas and show each other their screens. And they're really excited about it, and it allows for some great collaboration. So on the top here, for second grade, you'll see that they are creating games on Scratch Junior. So it's a program that we use that goes to Scratch, which you'll see in third grade. Here, they are using a more basic version that is pre-reader. So all levels are able to access it. And they're, in this case, creating a game for recess. So we noticed there was some team building exercise that could have benefited recess. So the students came up with the recess game, then they coded it in Scratch Junior as a way to give directions to other students on how to play the game. Then I brought the iPads out to recess, and they got a chance to be able to show each other their games and actually play the games that they had created. And then at the bottom, you'll see this is the social studies project that we're working on right now. It's for the urban, suburban, and rural unit. So this was them learning how to use the Cubetos, which is the robot that you see here. At the end of the social studies unit, they'll actually have created their own maps that look like this, but will designate one of those types of areas, either urban, suburban, or rural. And then they will create a day in the life worksheet for their other groups to follow. When other groups come to their station, they'll follow the day in the life and code the Cubeto to travel through the map. So they're in the process of learning that right there. And it's really exciting to be able to take these skills they're learning in coding and apply it to other parts of the day. And it really gets them excited about social studies and what they're working on, as well as coding. And here you'll see a project that we just started in third grade. The third graders are observing the second graders as they play in PE. These robots are on the ground. They're called unruly splats. And they are a way of creating these interactive games during PE that can be coded. So if you look at the bottom of the screen on the right, there's some coding that happens right here that they can control, and they can change. So what they're doing is they're observing, they're seeing what second graders are excited about. On the left side, you'll see that's one of the students' journals that they wrote down. They definitely enjoyed stomping on stuff. And then they take that understanding of what the second graders like, and they can create their game. So there's some games that are already created for them, which they can read the code and change the code to learn. And then they can also create their own from scratch if that's what they choose. So that's a project we'll be working on for a lot of the second half of the year in third. And here in fourth grade, the last project we worked on was a code your own adventure. So if you remember those code your own adventure books, where while you're reading the book, you get to choose what page to go to next. That's what the students created in a Scratch project. So on the left side, you'll see a graphic organizer. That's what they filled out for their story. At each point in the story, they have a choice. One option ends the story, one option continues the story. After they created the idea for the game, they then went into Scratch and coded it. So they had to use a lot of different skills in Scratch, like user interaction, conditionals, broadcasting, and nesting. And by the end, they were really able to create some awesome projects that they were really proud of. And again, use a lot of skills from other parts of their day too, writing and reading, that they're using to implement into their coding skills. And then for fifth grade, we still definitely want to keep it fun. So we're using robots here. These are dashes, but it does get more serious. So if you see on the right side, we are using line-based code in 5th grade. So students are learning how to apply what they've learned in K-4 with more simple programming languages like block-based languages and apply it to line-based code. So here we discussed in the first picture on the left, you see we discussed what a function is by looking at very popular song and thinking about how a function would make it easier to apply. Then on the right side, that's how they applied a function, what a function is, to some a coding app called Swift Playgrounds. So there they needed to come up with a function that was turn right. They did that and then were able to use turn right later in their code. And then while this one was for Swift Playgrounds that you see on the right, they're also able to use those same skills to code the robot to complete races. So they really enjoyed being able to apply really complicated skills to something as fun as moving the robot around as well. And that is it. We have lots of other projects, but I just wanted to give you a little snippet of each. You can feel free to email me if you have any deeper questions, but you can put some into the chat as well if you'd like.
All right, thank you so much, Claire. And you're getting a lot of thank yous in the chat as well. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Conan Robinson. And I'm going to jump in with Conan a little bit on this from NRUS. So just forgive me a second here while I share my screen one more time. And I wanted to just talk about this incredible opportunity and experience that we have. And I titled this little presentation, this brief presentation, Elementary School Council Meeting. The theme behind this is moving forward. Always make sure we're keeping the Bronxville promise. We have outstanding instruction, caring environment, incredible B3 character assemblies. We are having these incredible author virtual visits, studying things and acting out things such as generosity, perseverance. We celebrated some of the musical talents of our bands and string students right before the break. The district provides outstanding professional development for what I consider such a devoted and dedicated staff. I say this in capital letters that they are the best students in the world. Today, I did not want this presentation to come and end without thanking the Bronxville Police Department for the stranger awareness assemblies that they are giving our students. They were absolutely incredible. And Sergeant Billy Carroll, thank you so much for that. And our wonderful Chief Cetrielli, thank you so much for being with us and just always keeping our community safe. We continue to work with our families to have our students become those leaders, innovators, critical thinkers, and engaged citizens. Each and every day, it's about the concept of the Bronxville promise and how we keep that promise to our students each and every single day. And it's a lot of great work, hard work, and certainly work that is so worth it. Big districts always look ahead, and Bronxville's the greatest district. And, when we reflect and look back, we've been through so much these last 3 years. There have been many challenges, but in the middle of these challenges, there has just come incredible innovations and celebrations of learnings. And we need to take the time to look at these innovations and see how they have made us better and will make us better for years to come. Right now, we have this incredible opportunity. And we have an incredible foundation that's helping us as we move forward. Thanks to a generous grant from the Bronxville Foundation, we will be working with NRUS, a strategic planning company that's actually worked with Bronxville High School for the past few years. And it's so important that during these times that we keep looking to the future and moving forward for our students. Looking ahead, the focus of the work is going to be to unpack, process, and reflect on this COVID experience. Understand who we are and what we believe about teaching and learning. Spot and celebrate innovations and look at things that we have done and help us understand better what we do and why we do it. Building on what we need to build to create innovation, strategic projects and programming that will capture our values and continue to make Bronxville Elementary School a great place for children. The work has begun with our staff, but we are not a school that stands by itself. We're a community made up of students, staff, and families. And in order to define who we are and move forward, we need all voices of our community to be heard. So it's my pleasure to ask you for your voice. Staff are being given some time to unpack this experience. We need to hear what the parent experience has been, and that's good, bad, and ugly. Parents also need to take a bow themselves for what they have done. And this is part of this process that we go through with NRUS. And together, we need to take what we've learned and move it forward. We also need to hear from our most precious resource in this work, and that will happen as well. Those are the students. So it's my pleasure to introduce Conan Robinson, who will just speak briefly about the beginnings of this work. And Conan, please take it away.
Thanks, Joe. I don't think there's much more for me to say, mate. You kind of said it all. Joe summed up all the objectives. Hey, it's a real pleasure to be with you guys. So we have been working with the we're an organisation that works with schools all over the world. I'm obviously from Australia. We work with a lot of schools in Australia, a lot of schools in Europe, a lot of schools here in America, helping them through sort of challenging times, or helping them spot innovation and scale it across the school. One of the things that we really believe in is education is about continual change. It's about continual innovation, and Bronxville is actually one of the schools that's really, really highly committed to that, as you can see in your Bronxville promise. So that's what we've been working with the high school with over the last sort of 3 years. COVID came along and then went, wow, boom. Okay, now we've got a real challenge. And so you can imagine my organisation is working with a lot of schools, actually helping them just unpack what actually happened in this COVID period. What's happened for a lot of schools and a lot of parents and a lot of students and a lot of teachers is a massive feeling of disconnection, like a massive disconnectivity. School is normally a place of community. Well, good schools, and I know Bronxville is a great school, is where you have tight community, but this situation has created isolation and disconnection from parents, staff, students, faculty, leadership. And so one of the aims of this project is to let's reconnect. Actually, let's debrief and talk about the experiences that we actually had, and not assume that my experience is the same as Joe's experience or my experience is the same as Alana's experience. But we actually learn to listen to each other, something that this school is particularly good at doing, actually. So we actually learn to listen to, and the workshops that we've been doing with the staff over the last 3 weeks have been incredibly powerful in terms of just giving them an opportunity to express, this is what it's felt like for me. When we listen to each other, what we do there is we hear not only the struggles that we went through, which are very important to actually articulate and provide opportunities to articulate, but we also hear the amazing innovation that actually has taken place. One of the reasons why we put this program together is I just got sick of like the media story, the negative media story that it's been a disaster for schools and it's been a disaster for our kids over the last 2 years. No learning is happening. It's been like, it's been a tragedy for schools. What that has created, especially amongst staff, is incredibly low morale. And I'm not saying this exists at Bronxville, but across the state, it actually has created an environment where teachers are just quitting this. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's been very, very hard work. Parents are throwing their arms up. And I was like, that's actually not true. Actually, great work has happened. And people have tried things that they have never tried before. So one of the real aims of this program, of what we're trying to do, is not only reunite the community, reinvigorate people's passion for education, reinvigorate teachers' passion for why they got in the job in the first place, because they really want to connect with kids and they really want to connect with each other, but also help them spot the amazing things that they've actually done, but they might have done it in isolation. So help the school spot some of those things, and then in spotting those things, help the school choose which innovations are we actually going to scale across the school in terms of a strategic project, because that's the way we will continue to grow and move forward as a school. So it's a real pleasure to meet you guys. As I said, our process it uses a human-centered design process. So human-centered means it values humans, it puts humans at the center, and in that we really value the idea of listening. And so while we're working really closely right now with the faculty, we've got a lot of workshops planned with parents and with students. And I'm going to hand it back to Joe to just and Alana to just let you know some of the ways, or some of the ways moving forward, how we'll be providing opportunities for you to express your story and how we can learn to listen to that and learn from it.
Thank you, Kylie. And working with Alana, we will be getting a group of parents together, and I'm excited about working with that group of parents, just to have parents a little much more interaction with them. Just to give you an idea of NRUSC and what they do, the idea behind this project, they're actually not just working with our elementary school, they are working also with our middle school as well as part of that grant from the Bronxville Foundation. And the idea behind all of this is just to unpack this COVID experience, further understand who we are and what we believe about teaching and learning, go through and look at those innovations that have been found, and just continue to move forward past this experience and move towards the future in a great way. So we're going to look at some of the things that we've done, look at some of the things that we're going to keep as we move forward, look at some things that we're going to say goodbye to, and we're going to say goodbye to a lot of things when hopefully this whole COVID experience goes away, and just get back to continue to do the great work that we do here at Bronxville Elementary School. And Alana, I want to thank you for your support of this and for helping us get some great parents to be on this with us.
Thank you so much, Joe. And also Dr. Vastola, Ms. Holoku, and Mr. Robinson. That was an incredible update from the elementary school. You'll remember that Joe said this new project is thanks to a grant from the Bronxville Foundation, and I have a very quick update from the foundation for you. The grant cycle for the foundation has started. If you or your child have any interesting ideas for grant requests, please reach out to Wendy Fahey or Helena McSherry. I'm going to put their emails in the chat. Feel free to look at the foundation's website for ideas of what they have approved in the past. The deadline is February 28th for submissions. The foundation is also looking for new board members. If you would like to self-nominate or nominate others, please reach out to Helena for more information. And again, I'll put those emails in the chat. Finally, if you haven't done so already, please consider donating to the foundation. They do so many wonderful things for our school, truly, as was evident tonight. And as we wrap up our meeting, we have just two short updates from the PTA. Thank you for sticking with us. I'm so grateful to the parent volunteers who are here tonight. They're both devoted to rethinking how to run rewarding programs for our kids, despite all the COVID restrictions still in place. From the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, here's Mike Brady, who is kids in 3rd and 5th grade. Mike.
Great. Thank you so much. This has been a terrific evening of information. I appreciate everyone's incredible work. And I am just going to take a couple minutes to let you know of two events that the DEI committee is putting on. This work we're doing, I'm super excited about, just to expose everyone to the cultures, the many, many wonderful cultures we have in Bronxville. The first one is this Sunday in celebration of the new Lunar New Year and the East Asian Lunar New Year, which is on Tuesday. And we're going to do a specific celebration of Chinese New Year, which is the Year of the Tiger, on Sunday. It's 5 to 6. And we've actually, I think I will copy this in as the other person goes. The registration got closed because it's so close, but I'll put in an email if anyone is interested and hasn't had the opportunity to register yet. And then we have another event on February 13th to celebrate Black History Month, which I'm really excited for. It will be a showing of Blackboard Jungle at the Bronxville Library at 1:30, and it's going to be introduced by a former professor of the film studies at Rhode Island College, Lawrence Budner. So everyone is welcome to come to that on the 13th, and we'd love anyone that would also like to come to the DEI committee meetings. They're open to everyone. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mike. Last, from the lecture series committee, Amy Howard, who has kids in 2nd grade and kindergarten and has been involved with bringing in some of the amazing guest lecturers who have really brightened the kids' days over the past couple months. Amy?
Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Howard. I am a co-chair for the lecture series committee with Brooke Horgan and Susan Fraze. Our goal is always to bring to life our reading and writing curriculum in the school and kind of help our teachers bring some fun into what they're already doing in the classroom. So we could not do this without the support of the PTA, Miss Adams, Mr. Mercora, and the classroom teachers. This fall, we had Bruce Hale come in, and he really brought some laughter to our students' reading experiences. His books add humor, and they also have a lot of character building themes throughout for grades K to 5. And he came into the classrooms through Zoom and really talked to the students about the writing process, and where he gets his ideas on a daily basis, whether it's a lizard on the hood of his car that inspires a chapter book, or a character that he becomes obsessed with that he writes about over and over and over again in different stories for children. So the kids were thrilled with him. And then we just recently, earlier this month, had award-winning author Rajani LaRocca. And she was really interesting for the students because she is born in India, grew up in Kentucky. She is a physician, and she's also an author. So her books cross all sorts of barriers. They focus on diversity. They focus on identity. She grew up doing a lot of math and STEM work with family members and logic puzzles, and she incorporates a lot of that into her literature. So the kids were thrilled to meet with both of them. Their questions for the authors were really wonderful. It was great to see them so excited in the classroom. And then this spring, we're hoping to bring in a theatrical group that will work with the students on innovative writing, that the group will then perform a few of the students' stories. So as we do this, and as we bring authors and people into the classrooms through Zoom right now, we have also tried to enrich our classroom libraries. So with every author that we bring in, every classroom and our library gets a book bundle. So it is content appropriate, grade level appropriate, and we're hoping to diversify our classroom libraries and bring what we can to the students. So we hope that everyone's enjoying it. Feel free to reach out to us with any suggestions, but it's been wonderful working on this.
Thank you so much, Amy. You guys are doing such amazing work. And thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to all our speakers and our parents for carving out the time. We're so grateful to everybody. Have a good night, and we'll see you in March. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Alana. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.